The black stallion, known as Titan, exploded against the solid wooden door of his stall, making the entire structure shudder violently. Outside, the ranch owner, Marcus Sterling, recoiled instinctively, the fear visible in his eyes. Titan wasn't just a horse. He was a 1,200-pound weapon consumed by an uncontrollable fury that no one could explain. Just 6 months earlier, Titan had been the country's Olympic hope, a jumper valued at $2 million who floated over 6-foot obstacles as if he had wings. But something had happened on that rainy November afternoon, something that transformed the graceful athlete into a monster that had already sent two experienced handlers to the ice. "He's useless," Marcus said, the head trainer, a burly man named Vance, spitting onto the packed dirt floor. "He won't let anyone near him to saddle him, let alone ride. He's dangerous. If he escapes, he's going to kill someone. You need to sign the insurance paperwork and end this today." Marcus looked at the horse, who was now standing at the back of the dark stall, sweating and trembling, the whites of his panicked eyes rolling in the darkness. The insurance would pay the full value of the horse only in the case of a total loss, a bureaucratic euphemism for humane youth. It was an obvious financial decision, but one that turned Marcus's stomach. "Give me 1 more week," Marcus pleaded, though he knew it was futile. Vance shook his head impatiently. "You said that last week. The vet is coming this afternoon for something else. I can ask him to bring the injection. Think about the money, Marcus. The ranch is in the red. A dead Titan saves us all." While the men discussed the animal's fate, a small figure watched from the shadows of the hayloft. Leo was only 12 years old, the son of the ranch's new cook. He hadn't spoken a word since he was 5, living in a world of silence that most people interpreted as an intellectual disability, though his eyes showed a sharp intelligence. Leo saw things that the adults ignored. He saw how Vance, the trainer, always carried an electric cattle prod hidden in his boot, even when he claimed to use only positive reinforcement. He saw how Titan didn't attack out of malice, but out of absolute terror, reacting to invisible memories that haunted him whenever a human entered his space. When Vance and Marcus left for the main office to discuss the insurance terms, the stable fell silent, save for Titan's heavy breathing. Leo slipped out of the shadows, moving with the lightness of a cat. He knew he had little time. If the vet arrived with the injection, there would be no second chance for the black giant. The boy walked to the door of the forbidden stall, where red danger do not approach signs were tacked up. Through the bars, he saw Titan brace himself to attack, ears pinned flat back, teeth bared. Any sane person would have run, but Leo didn't run. He stood still, closed his eyes, and began to hum a low, vibrating melody. The melody had no words, just a guttural, rhythmic sound that resonated in his chest. It was the sound his mother made to calm him during his sensory crises. Titan paused mid-strike. The horse's ears flicked slightly forward. The sound seemed to break the cycle of panic that dominated the animal's brain. Leo slid the latch open. The metallic click was loud in the stable's silence. Titan snorted and backed up, ready to explode. But instead of entering with ropes or whips, Leo entered backwards without looking at the horse, sitting down on the dirty straw floor 10 feet away from the furious beast. He continued humming, ignoring the mortal danger. Minutes passed. The horse, confused by the lack of aggression, began to sniff the air. That small human didn't exude the sour smell of fear and adrenaline that the other men did. He smelled of calm. Titan took a hesitant step, then another. The herd instinct, the drive to seek connection, began to fight against the trauma. Suddenly, the stable door banged open. Marcus and Vance entered, laughing at some joke. The laughter died in their throats when they saw Titan's stall door open. "My God," Marcus shouted, running forward. "The boy! Vance, get the tranquilizer gun. He's going to kill the child." Marcus's shouts broke the trance. Titan reared, letting out a whinny that sounded like a war cry, his front hooves slashing the air dangerously close to Leo's head. Marcus froze, expecting to see the small body crushed. "Don't move," Vance bellowed, running to grab a pitchfork from the wall. "Get out of there, boy." But Leo didn't move. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he raised his right hand slowly, palm opened upwards, and released a sharp, high-pitched sound, almost imperceptible. Titan, at the peak of his fury, froze. The horse looked at the small hand. Trembling violently, the giant lowered his hooves to the ground, inches from the boy. What happened next made Marcus question his sanity. The killer monster lowered his massive head, exhaled a long sigh that kicked up dust from the floor, and pressed his wet muzzle into Leo's palm. The boy stroked the white blaze on the horse's nose. Titan closed his eyes and, with a soft groan, buckled his front legs and lay down. Vance dropped the pitchfork. The clatter echoed through the corridor, but neither the horse nor the boy reacted. Titan was lying at Leo's feet like a giant dog, his head resting in the child's lap. Leo ran his fingers through the matted mane, picking out pieces of straw with infinite patience. "That's impossible," Marcus whispered, gripping the bars to keep from falling. "No one has touched that horse in 6 months without being attacked." "Who is that kid?" Vance, recovering from the shock, stepped forward, his face red with anger. "It's the cook's son, the mute one. He must have drugged the horse. That's the only explanation. Get out of there now, you delinquent." Vance opened the door and entered aggressively. In an instant, Titan's attitude shifted. The horse didn't get up to flee. He got up to protect. Titan placed himself between Leo and Vance, baring his teeth and blocking the trainer's path with his massive body. The message was clear. You do not touch him. Marcus entered the stall and grabbed Vance's arm. "Stop!" Marcus ordered. "Don't you see? The horse is protecting him." "Titan isn't crazy, Vance. He's choosing. He trusts the boy and hates you. The question you should be asking yourself right now is, why? What does this horse know that we don't?" Marcus ordered everyone out, leaving Leo alone with the horse. For the first time in months, Marcus saw hope, not a financial loss. He called for Leo's mother, a woman named Sarah, who came running from the mess hall, wiping her hands on her apron, terrified to learn where her son was. "He's always had this way with animals, Mr. Sterling," Sarah explained, weeping as she saw her son safe, hugging the stallion's neck. "Since he was little, he doesn't speak to people, but animals, ... they understand him. It's like he speaks a language we've forgotten. But I told him never to go near that horse." Marcus watched the scene thoughtfully. Sarah let him stay. For the first time, Titan is at peace. But I need to understand what happened. Vance says the horse went crazy out of nowhere on the day of the accident, but his reaction to Vance just now, ... was personal hatred. Was Leo here on the ranch that day in November? Sarah hesitated, twisting her apron. He likes to hide in the hayloft to watch the training. That night, he came home different. Agitated. He drew the same thing over and over for weeks. I thought it was just a phase, but now, maybe he saw something that scared him. "Do you still have those drawings?" Marcus asked, feeling a chill run down his spine. Sarah nodded and ran to fetch her son's sketchbook. While he waited, Marcus watched Vance in the corridor, speaking furiously on his phone, looking at the stall with an expression that wasn't concern, but pure panic. Sarah returned with a tattered school notebook. Marcus opened the pages. They were childish drawings, yet detailed. The first showed Titan jumping. The second showed Titan crashing into the rails. The third was the most disturbing. It showed a human figure holding something that looked like a baton, striking the fallen horse's legs. The next drawing showed the man injecting something into the horse's neck, and the last drawing showed the man laughing. The human figure had a specific detail drawn with heavy pressure, a red cap, the same red Red Sox cap that Vance wore religiously every day during training. The pieces clicked into place in Marcus's mind with the force of a punch. The accident hadn't been an accident. Titan hadn't refused to jump. He had been forced to fail. And the subsequent aggression wasn't madness. It was trauma. The horse was trying to defend himself from the man who had tortured him. Marcus needed concrete proof. Drawings from a mute child wouldn't hold up in court against the word of a renowned trainer. He needed to find what Vance had injected or used. He needed to examine the horse up close, something no veterinarian had managed to do in months. Marcus entered the stall slowly. Titan tensed up, but Leo placed a hand on the horse's chest, and the animal relaxed. "Leo," Marcus said softly, "I need to see his legs. Can you help me? Can you ask him to let me look?" The boy looked into Marcus's eyes, assessing his soul, and then nodded. With Leo's help, Marcus managed to examine Titan's front legs. Under the coat, he felt small, abnormal bumps on the tendons, scars from something that didn't feel like a jumping impact. They were chemical marks. Blistering. An old and cruel technique used to make a horse's legs hypersensitive to pain. If Titan touched any rail during a jump, the pain would be excruciating, forcing him to jump higher out of fear. But Vance must have miscalculated the dose or method, causing pain so intense that the horse went into a mental collapse. It was fraud and animal cruelty at the highest level. Suddenly, the stable light was blocked. Vance stood in the doorway, holding a heavy metal shovel. He was no longer feigning concern. His face was twisted with hate. "You should have signed the insurance, Marcus," he hissed. $2 million. It would have saved the ranch and my retirement. "You tortured him," Marcus said, standing up and placing himself in front of Leo and Sarah, who had entered the stall, "to force an insurance payout. You destroyed the best horse we ever had out of greed." Vance laughed, advancing. "No one is going to believe a retard's drawing and the word of a bankrupt rancher. The horse is crazy. And you folks had an unfortunate accident with him." Vance raised the shovel to strike Marcus, but he made a fatal mistake. He ignored Titan Estalia. Seeing the raised object that so closely resembled the instruments of his torture, didn't retreat this time. With a whinny that chilled everyone's blood, Titan exploded into motion, rushing past Marcus like a freight train. The horse charged at Vance, pinning him against the wooden wall with his chest. The shovel flew away. Vance screamed in terror, cowering on the floor. Titan raised his front hooves, ready to crush the man who had turned his life into a living hell. It was pure vengeance from nature. "No," Marcus shouted, fearing the horse would become a true killer. But it wasn't Marcus's shout that stopped the animal. It was a touch, a small hand on the horse's flank. Leo had approached, unafraid of the violence. He didn't pull the horse. He just touched him. Titan stopped with his hooves in the air, trembling with adrenaline. He looked at Vance, whimpering on the floor, and then turned his head to look at Leo. The boy looked at him with profound calm, shaking his head negatively. "He isn't worth it," the boy's gaze seemed to say. Slowly, painfully, Titan lowered his hooves to the ground. He snorted one last time in Vance's face, covering the trainer in slobber and contempt, and then turned his back, walking calmly back to Leo's side. The police, called by Sarah minutes earlier, arrived with Saren's wailing, finding Vance defeated and cowering in the corner. The subsequent investigation found vials of caustic chemical agents hidden in Vance's personal locker and records of massive illegal bets against the ranch itself. Vance was arrested for fraud, animal cruelty, and attempted assault. The truth about Titan's madness was finally revealed. But the legal battle was just the beginning. The insurance refused to pay anything now that the fraud was discovered, and the ranch was still on the brink of bankruptcy. Titan was alive, but his jumping career seemed over. He still wouldn't let anyone ride him. No one, except for one person. In the following weeks, Leo and Titan became inseparable. The boy spent hours in the pasture, reading books while leaning against the horse's belly. Marcus watched, amazed. He realized that Titan's healing wouldn't come from expensive training, but from that silent friendship. One day, Marcus found Leo atop Titan. No saddle, no reins, just holding the mane. The horse walked with extreme care, as if carrying a crystal goblet. Marcus held his breath. If Titan could be ridden again, maybe, just maybe, there was a future. The news about the boy who whispered to the monster horse spread. A video of Leo riding Titan bareback, guiding the horse with only thoughts and gentle touches, went viral online. People didn't come to see an Olympic champion. They came to see the miracle of the connection between the silent boy and the broken beast. Marcus transformed the ranch into a therapy center for traumatized horses and children with special needs. Titan didn't return to show jumping competitions. He became the head therapist. His sensitivity, born of his own trauma, allowed him to connect with children the world had given up on understanding. The ranch was saved not by a contest prize, but by donations and visitors who wanted to be part of that magic. Leo, now officially the head rehabilitation trainer, a title Marcus had embroidered on a jacket for him, found his voice, not with words, but through his work. Years later, Marcus watched Titan, now with gray hairs on his muzzle, running free in the pasture with Leo, now a young man, by his side. They didn't need ropes. They ran in perfect sync, two souls who had been discarded by the world as broken and useless, but who together had found perfection. Sometimes the biggest jump a horse can make isn't over a painted wooden bar. It's the leap of faith to trust a human again after being betrayed. And sometimes the greatest hero isn't the one who speaks the loudest, but the one who knows how to listen to the silence. Vance paid for his crimes in prison, but his greatest punishment was knowing he failed. He tried to break a king's spirit, but only revealed his true nobility. Titan proved that true strength doesn't come from aggression, but from the capacity to forgive and love again. If you visit the Sterling Ranch today, you'll see a bronze statue at the entrance. It doesn't show Titan jumping an Olympic obstacle. It shows a giant horse lying calmly, his head in a small boy's lap. The plaque underneath reads simply, "To the broken who healed each other. Love is the only language that needs no voice."